hot topic, menopause. I want to know, does everybody feel the same way? Is menopause the kick butt, life-changing, oh my God, what happened experience that I had? I don't remember my mother going through it. I don't remember my grandmother complaining about it. Or were they just in acceptance of it? And we aren't. Maybe we are fighting so hard to be young, vibrant, live forever, live wonderfully, that we don't like the change. Or has it changed? So when menopause hit, my experience was very, I don't know if it was exaggerated, but I was told when I did in vitro fertilization with my children that the downside to in vitro was that I was going to be hit with a very hard menopause. You tell a 27-year-old that, she doesn't hear that. She hears, I want to have babies. I've been married for 4 years and I'm having a hard time. I didn't have any tubes. I just want to have babies. Who cares about menopause? That's what I thought. But then when I hit about 43, 44 years old, I started to get hot flashes. I started to get the depression. I started to get the bodily changes, in a good way though, which was interesting. My bodily changes were interesting because that's when I started really healing myself. I got lean, I got wiry, I got strong, and I thought, this is interesting. But I had no idea that it was perimenopause that I was experiencing, all the emotional things. I can honestly say to this day that the perimenopause disrupted the peace in my life, the peace in my marriage. I didn't know what was going on, but what I do know is that I felt like I was a teenager again. I remember telling my now former husband that I feel like I'm going through puberty. Like my rage and my desires and my feeling of I want to run away from everything was overwhelming. And of course, he didn't know. He didn't know what I was going through. How could he? And I didn't even know what I was going through. I just knew that something was happening to me and I couldn't stop it. So I went to the doctor, and I went to actually Beth McDougall, who's wonderful. She's got a podcast. She's amazing. She was in Marin County at the time. And I went to her and she really explained things to me very nicely. She actually talked about how our hormones are like a hydraulic press, right? So you have your progesterone, your estrogen, your pregnenolone, and it's all kind of overseen by, of course your thyroid is all involved with that. It's overseen by this band that is in control of your hormones. I'm trying to think of what that was. Was that pregnenolone? Yes, that was the pregnenolone. Hormones I'd never even heard of. And she said, you're at zero. And I thought, well, I don't know. Again, you're trying to tell a vibrant woman who's kind of losing her mind. She's kind of crazy. And I'm saying that in the most lovable way because I think, I think my craziness is part of my charm. But it was so crazy that as soon as she said that, I said, okay, fine, whatever, just fix me. Put me on hormones. I'll never forget this because I was actually on a trip with my girlfriend and we were in London and I was 5 days into my creams and I called my, at the time, still husband, and I said, I feel better. I feel normal again. I feel balanced. I think that was too late. I think he'd already moved on because I think I was just a little too crazy for him for too long. And there was, what happened after that was a complete, crazy nightmare. But not blaming menopause, just looking in hindsight of how it really affected my life. I ended up bleeding after that for 100 days. I was 49 years old. I was bleeding for 100 days, 48, 49 years old. And I wasn't even anemic, which was really crazy. Like I was literally, bleeding. And the doctor's like, I don't know how you're not anemic because you're losing so much blood. And I was so wiry, and I'm not a wiry person. I'm actually a very strong, kind of a big girl. And I remember thinking, oh wow, am I going to be one of those menopausal women who are like all, this is new for me. And then suddenly, bam, the blood stopped. And within about 3 weeks, I was swollen and gained about 15 pounds. Uncontrolled. I had no idea. My whole body shifted. Like it was like a pendulum, went from one side to the other. And I still didn't understand what was going on in my body. I didn't know enough about hormones to identify how to deal with it. So I kind of maintained this heaviness for a while, still eating at the time raw foods. And this is when I found out that I was catabolic, because my body was turning to fluff. There was no more muscle left, and I was a very muscular person. There was no tone. My face was getting full. I didn't recognize myself at all. On a physical level, on the emotional level, I was tired, and I would say a little depressed, kind of sad. Of course, I'd just gone through a divorce, so that I just figured that was part of it. But I think it was bigger than that. I think this was all about the hormones. So I went to the doctor and I had to get a pap smear. And I said, check it on the scale. And I had gained 30 pounds. And I thought, wow, I was stuffing myself into my jeans, a little muffin top hanging over the edge, but I didn't realize it was 30 pounds. And I gained 30 pounds like overnight. And I said to the doctor, what's going on here? And she goes, are you eating bananas? I'll never forget. I thought, of course, I put a half a banana in my morning shake every morning. How could I not be eating bananas? You think that I gained 30 pounds from using the same exact half of a frozen banana that I put in my morning shake for the last 15 years is now causing me to gain 30 pounds. And that was it. Never went to that doctor again. And it was slow going until I started to try new ways to figure out how to deal with my new state of being. And I think a lot of it is not just the hormonal imbalance, but the happiness factor. And now I've come to the conclusion, after I have found balance in my menopause, I think that hydraulic press was going so crazy that your body's just trying to figure out its homeostasis, trying to find some kind of groundwork for it to slow down and breathe and maintain. And the reason our mothers and our grandmothers didn't complain about it is because they didn't live the lifestyles that we do now. They weren't overwhelmed, chaotic lifestyles on the phone. The expectations of our lives now are so busy and so crazy that we live in a very high cortisol way of being. Everything is just, we're always on edge. There's just so much going on that they didn't experience. It was a much simpler life, especially with the grandmother, right? I mean, my mother, she had a way simpler life than I do. And my grandmother, I'm sure, even more simple. And we are expected now to be on top of everything. Even if you're not running a company like I am or was, if you're not doing anything, just trying to keep up with social media, just trying to keep up with your people calling you, your bills, your brother, your sister, your being available 24/7 causes a lot of stress, and that is a cortisol igniter. And so while your hydraulic press is going on and your stress levels are high, I think it just takes longer to find the homeostasis. I think it's really finding that balance is so much more difficult. So at the retreat, I created a menopause package because I wanted people to find their inner peace, right? I wasn't giving them hormones. I don't give them hormones. They can come with their hormones and we can work on it. But it's about acceptance. It's about saying, hey, this is the next level of my life. This is where I'm going. I don't have to hold on to the past. I don't have to be this person. I've done all my work. I've had my children. I can relax now, right? and somehow just come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to be the same way that I was when I was in my 30s. That part, it's important to say that because I think that's a surrender piece. But the piece that, and maybe some of you won't enjoy me saying this or think I'm a little cuckoo again, which agreed. I'm not going to dispute that one. We are emerging from a woman, a caretaker, into a new, wise, what I call goddess energy. It's the next level. It's this place where you can't touch us. We become untouchable. We become unshakable. We're so grounded in our wisdom, in our life experience, our knowledge, that we are now the nurturers and the people that people want to come to us for the cozies, for the hugs, for the warmth, for the advice. That is what they're not teaching us about menopause, is that it is, as Dr. Northrup says, the wisdom of menopause. Our bodies have been through so much that we are now wiser. When you don't fight it, the body won't react. Menopause changed my life, and it made me and catapulted me, I would say, into a growth phase that I wasn't ready for. It catapulted me into a space of wisdom where I had to catch up. I could no longer be that little girl who had a problem with words that somebody said or be sensitive to things that happened. They happened for me to become who I am today. And for you who have been through the process or are going through it, my words of wisdom and my advice to you is to accept, surrender, allow, and be at peace with the changes. That's what I truly believe. Talk to you soon.